Hey, this is Zeke from CodePen and I'm here with a Level Up Friday. Level Up Fridays are free coding tutorials designed to help you improve as a coder over the course of your lunch break. Today, we're going to tackle something that I think is really important. Now, as you grow as a coder or designer, a lot of people who are in sort of that beginning stages are looking for places where they can use their coding skills. If you're working with a professional team, there's not that many places, it seems, because everyone's better than you at coding. Well, I love teaching Markdown because it's one of the simplest places to get started, and it makes a giant improvement in the way you communicate with your team. So we're going to talk about Markdown today. What is Markdown? Markdown is a language designed by Daring Fireball's John Gruber, and it's really designed to be a text to HTML conversion tool. And the power in that really is derived for writers, for people who need to create long-form content. It's actually something I use regularly to create any articles I make. So with that in mind, if this language is designed to convert basically text to HTML, where can you use it? Well, you'll see there's quite a few places. One of the biggest ones I think of personally is actually on your projects. If you're using any kind of project management tool or code review tool, there's a good chance it supports Markdown. Three of the biggest places I can think of that use it today are Pivotal Tracker, and if you're on an agile team, there's a pretty good chance people are using it. Github, which everyone who's hosting code sort of uses. And Trello, which I love to personally use for my own work. I actually do track projects through that, and you see a lot of companies do too. But more than just in the context of working on your project, you can also use these in writing applications. Now, if you do a search on the App Store for a Markdown app, you're probably going to find a list of them. The one I use right now is an app called IA Writer. You'll see, I could show you an example of me just writing up an episode description in it. Some of the characters might look a little funky, but I like using it so that I can really just focus on writing and not focus so much on the styling. Now, with that in mind, I want to go ahead and get started showing you how this works in a CodePen example. But there's a lot of other applications you can use this in. So in CodePen, just go ahead and create a new pen. I won't have a starter template for you right for this one because really there's nothing else you need to get started with. Once you get into the project, just go ahead and click on your settings for the HTML, and then you'll see these HTML preprocessors. Markdown is the one you're going to want to use. Great, and now we see our little Markdown flag. That means we're doing well. Doing exactly what we should be doing. The first thing I want to do is just create a bunch of hit lines just to kind of show you what that process looks like, but it's pretty simple. This hit line 1 actually kind of translates to an H1. So you'll see the beginning of the line, I have the number symbol. And the output, as you see, is, well, it looks like a basic H1 that without any styling, and that's true. In fact, if I open up my web inspector, you know, this is a lot to stare at, but I'm just going to go ahead and select this element, and you'll see headline 1 H1. There's my H1 tag. Ignore that web inspector, we won't need it for the rest of this, but I just wanted to show you that this is really truly just HTML it's creating. If you wanted to create an H2, you could do the same by just doing 2 number signs. You'll get an H2, H3, and you can keep going down the lists until you reach all the way down to H6. H6, there we go. And that's just 6 number signs. Now what if we just wanted to write text like normal? I'm just going to use the lorem ipsum text that CodePen provides by hitting a tab key after I typed lorem. And you can see I have lorem ipsum. And now if I want these to be separate paragraphs, what happens? Well, this can get a little tricky. Markdown has a bunch of different flavors, as you call them, and that means there's a few different rendering engines. Most rendering engines actually would render this as a single paragraph, no break whatsoever. So it would look more like this to most engines if you just had a single line with no space between. If you really wanted to create a paragraph, you have to have one sort of line of empty, space to create paragraphs and separate them. Well, what if you wanted to make some text bold? You would actually do that by doing 2 star symbols. That'll give you bold text. Maybe you just wanted italics. A single star surrounding text would give you that. The way I like to think about this is you have emphasized text and then strongly emphasized text. Adding the double stars just gives it that bigger piece of emphasis. Finally, if you wanted to just strike out some text, you'd actually use your tilde symbol twice. And that should strike out text. Again, that works in most editors. In a lot of editors, there's an alternative for italics, and I'm just going to go up here and do it. Italic alt. By just simply wrapping everything with those underscores, and you'll see it's here italicized as well. Now, what I think is particularly nice, especially if you're leaving a comment and you're trying to format it nicely so that people can really understand very quickly what they need to understand about this comment, whether it's on a piece of code you're reviewing or some design mockups that you may have dropped into Pivotal or some other tool, is actually creating lists. So if you wanted to create an unordered list, you could just do a star in the beginning and a space between, and you'll see that's creating my unordered list. I'll just add a few more list items so you can see. 2 list item 3. And might as well add a 1 up there. Great. So now we have those. There's also an alternative. You can also use a dash in front, and that's still going to give you an unordered list. I'll just type those real quick. List item 3. Great. So you can see in either format it works. I like this because a lot of times when I'm reviewing Markdown, I'm not looking at the formatted version. I'm just looking at sort of the raw Markdown. And sometimes, honestly, I like the dashes better because, I may confuse them for the stars that I use to like bold or italicize text. It's just, for me, I just kind of like having a different character. You can also create an ordered list. And you do that kind of the way you would expect if you only had text to work with. Just do 1 dot list item 1. And let's do 2 dot list item 2, 3 dot list item 3. And you see we got our ordered list. Now, the thing to remember here when you're making an ordered list is Markdown really doesn't care about the number you put there to start off the item. You can say this is number 99, the second item is number 99, and it's not going to change. You can give this 1,000. Actually, that's 1,000. The order is not going to change. You can call this 0. The order is not going to change, not in the display. The only way to actually change the order is to rearrange them. You'll see now my list item 3 is actually number 2. So a lot of people, when they write Markdown, actually just leave everything as 1. I'm just going to change that back down to 3. What's really nice too is if you wanted to create some sort of decoration to separate out your commentary, maybe there are distinct sections in your comments, you can actually create a horizontal rule. You'll see that pop in a moment, by just doing 3 stars. Now, Markdown is really great for coders because it actually allows you to drop in code sort of almost naturally. You can copy and paste this stuff directly into your text program if you wanted to. You can do that by having 3 backticks. So I did 3 again. That's going to be, the key to the left of your number 1 key. And now what you see is, if I wanted to, for example, do a CSS example here, I'm just going to go ahead, drop that in. I can still tab out, and let's say font weight 900, just as an example. You can see the spaces and everything came out. That is fantastic if you're working on code projects. If you're in something like GitHub, you can even tell GitHub what exactly to consider this. You see, even when I typed this into CodePen and I typed CSS, it went, okay, I understand what this is now, and started highlighting this differently in the editor, at least for me. On GitHub, you'd actually see that change reflected when people see the text as well. The code selection will get, the coloring of the code will get better. Now, if you have, let's say, a paragraph, and inside of the middle of that paragraph, you had a reference to some code, you could just do 2 backticks and just, add a little bit of code there. A little code. Each one. And what's great is you see those also came out as just sort of a code block. Again, if you put this on GitHub, you can see kind of the color difference as well. This would really stand out a lot stronger. But it's really nice to be able to do that, especially if you need to share code or point out specific snippets that you're seeing a problem with. Or maybe you as a designer even just want to go in and go, all right, here are things I've opened this project up a little bit. I can see which variables need to be changed, or I can see what font sizes need to be changed. I can just drop those in. And providing it in a way where it's code that's ready for a developer to use is pretty fantastic. Speaking of text snippets, block quotes are something that I think is really important to be able to do. Here's a quote, from, maybe it's from our client. If you're working on in Pivotal together, it's nice for people to be able to see the exact context behind why a decision was made sometimes. So you can say from, our fave client. Oops. And, that dash will get you in trouble. And you could even, inside of here, you could italicize it if you want. You can do something else to kind of make it stand out. But it's nice to be able to get that quote. And in a lot of editors, you'll see this is unstyled, but you can actually see some style around it too. One of the big things I use this for, and actually kind of 2 things, are links and images. Providing links inside of your pivotal stories, inside of your Trello boards to either envision mockups or something else somewhere else on the web is just really, really awesome. It removes a lot of the guesswork behind people when they're communicating. So I'll do that. And in Markdown, it's pretty easy to do. If you have a bit of text that you want to link, it requires sort of two symbols. One is this open bracket, close bracket, and this is going to be the text you want to link. And then in the parentheses, this is where you actually drop in your link. I'm just going to link to example.com. Images really aren't that different. What you have to do is actually insert an exclamation mark. And this is going to be the alt text to image. And this is alt text is typically used for screen readers or just to help with accessibility. There used to be rumors that it was used for SEO. It really isn't. But this is somewhere where you can kind of describe an image. So I'm just going to reach for an example. I love this site called placeholder.com. So I think it's pretty great for placeholder images. I'll just go ahead and copy that. And let's go back to our pen. I'm just going to go ahead and paste that in. And now you'll see I've got, an image that I wanted there. I love that feature alone because you can do things, more creative things with images and embedding them. You can do something like go ahead and create a GIF and just drop it into whether it's Pivotal or into GitHub and just show people what something like an animation might really mean, or when you're hovering over a menu, what's really happening. I love that ability to show rather than tell. So I created a couple of examples that I wanted to show you so you can kind of see this in practice and see what it really could be. I've got a Pivotal open. Of course, this isn't the real Pivotal for Code for Designers, but you can see I created a story in the icebox. If you open it up, I've already got a comment in there. We're talking about this idea of like doing an animated preview for episodes of Code for Designers. So, I was able to drop in a GIF directly in, almost directly in. What I ended up doing actually was go ahead and I went ahead and upload the image originally, and then hit the copy link button, and then went back to edit, and you see this markup pretty much looks the same. I'll clean it up so you can really see it, but I just put embedded example here and pasted in the link. Oops, that's not the link I wanted. But this link. How did I get to that link? Well, here, I'll cancel. What I went ahead and did was just went to view full size. And when I hit view full size, that URL actually gave me the real link. So that's what I just copied and pasted in. And now when somebody goes to this comment, they can read it and see exactly what I meant. The same is true on GitHub. I've worked with teams that have been very heavy into using GitHub, especially for reviewing their code. So in GitHub, you can do some pretty cool things. And what you see is I've got an image from a particular issue in this example. And this is actually a kind of a real issue I want to fix. But you can see I'm just pointing out that the padding top is visually higher, a little tighter than the bottom. And I open it in a new tab. And what's kind of cool is you can see I've got these check boxes. Now, how did I make that happen? Again, this is just Markdown. Inside of my code, when I was writing, actually what I did is just dragged and dropped my image directly into the editor. Because GitHub allows you to do that so you can embed images directly in. And it'll take care of uploading it for you and creating the link. You probably want to clean up this alt name. Mine's kind of just an error. Padding error example on button. So that's cleaning up my alt text. And then I told people, hey, what do I need for this issue to be closed? If I wanted to, I can just go ahead and bold that text. But you see, I have a list. And then I have these brackets that just have a kind of a space inside of them and a space between them. And that really is what's creating these checkboxes. And because I'm the one who created this, I can immediately just check that box. But you'll see, that was really just done by putting an X in between the brackets. I can close out the second one exactly the same way. And what's really cool to me is for GitHub, you can see it has 2 of 2 completed. It's looking at those checkboxes and going, all right, is this thing ready to go or not? So I hope you see that you can use Markdown in quite a few places. The syntax is pretty simple, but it can be pretty powerful for those people that you're working with. Embedding images, creating lists, bolding the right things, italicizing other things, calling out quotes from your clients. There's just a ton of uses for it. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out, either through the @CodeForDesigners Twitter or the Facebook page. I'm going to try to answer as many questions as I possibly can. If you're not subscribed to the newsletter, please do. That helps me know that I'm creating content that you like. And most of all, happy coding.